Well, greetings, everybody, and welcome to this special edition of Duerrisms, the podcast, as presented by our good friends at Advanced Physical Therapy. And joining me to my right is Eric Stratman, the organizer and Svengali behind the Quincy Shootout, which is just a week away, Eric. And I know this is a passion project for you. Every year it has grown. What excites you about this newest edition coming up?
Just the excitement of the teams that we have coming back and how much they really enjoy and want to come back. It's almost gotten to be when we first started, you got to kick doors and make contacts and bug whoever you could bug to get a contact. Now it's people want to come back and they want to be part of this and they want to reach out and come. And so it's made the job a little easier on that aspect, but it's difficult in the same because I want to get some variety too. So I got to tell people I really liked it now, and maybe not this year. And so, but this year's group, it's got a plethora of a lot of really talented players, highly ranked players, especially in the junior class.
I know you're recruiting, you're recruiting name brands of the programs, but I know your eye is always on the talent. Is this the deepest and broadest talent pool you've brought in yet?
I think it could be. I really do think it could be. I think especially when you look at schools like Link and Wasatch and Huntington Prep, when you're talking about Link and Wasatch, you're talking about 6, 7, 8 guys on their roster that are big-time, high major players that will be playing at programs. We've got kids that have already committed to North Carolina, Kansas, Texas, Missouri, and the list goes, Connecticut, the list goes on of where they're going. And that's been that way the last few years too, but we're starting to see it a little bit more now. We're starting to get into these kids we've had here that are going to be lottery picks, and that's when it's really cool.
So we had Nick Saban just retire and say that the changing state of football and the portal and everything else has changed him and made it impossible for him to coach in this day and age. Nobody talks about how much the world has changed at the high school level with transfers and you sign teams, then suddenly players are gone. How frustrating and hard has that been to deal with this ever fluctuating talent pool at the high school level, just trying to get the guys that you want here?
It is difficult because you try and reach out and as early as you can and put a bug in the ear. So I've already got a phone number and a text sent to a coach who I know they're going to be really good next year. They're not local, but they're a St. Louis team. But will he have those kids? Yeah. That's the whole key. And sometimes the hard part is I know that the kids aren't going to be there before the coach does, because I may talk to somebody else and they're all like, he's out of there. And I'm like, do you text the coach because you know him well and say, hey, is so-and-so going to be there? Oh, yeah, they're going to be there. They're not going to be there, And so it's we signed a team last year out of Pittsburgh, rather, and they had 2 7-foot juniors, and we thought they were going to really be good. Well, one of them up and left. So at the same time, I get an email from Chicago Simeon that's wanting to come, and you don't tell Simeon no, even if Robert Smith's not there anymore.
Right.
So when I called the team out of Pittsburgh and said, I don't think we can have you now because this kid left, they really wanted to come. Well, sure enough, a couple weeks later, the other 7-footer left. Yeah. And so it's really a gamble, but those coaches mostly know what you're recruiting and what these shootouts are about. And so you just never know. Bishop Miege, we had them here that one year, and all of a sudden, Jeremiah Robinson Earl was going to be a superstar the very next year. He left and went to Montverde or IMG, I think IMG. But little did we know, they still came, and then they had a guy named Mark Mitchell. Yeah. And now Mark Mitchell's playing and doing well for Duke. So you just never know.
Well, I'll point out the irony of this. Look at Aaron Rowe's situation where you brought in Father Tolton, which is, Coach Osborne, who obviously has ties here. He goes to Link, and now he's back at Tolton, and now a Mizzou pledge. So it really is a weird world. What is it that you're finding is the biggest reason that these teams like Link, I know everybody in the country, and you have this great relationship with Link and with Wasatch, and everybody wants them, and yet they keep coming back here because it's different for them. This is different for them, isn't it?
It is different. In Link's situation, it makes a lot of sense because they don't have to get on a plane.
Right.
And that is different for them. And they're very familiar with the tradition and what goes on here. Everywhere those kids go and play, there's a line outside the door of kids wanting autographs. So that's not different. And what we do for them, there are people that do more for them than we do. Some of these schools go, and Wasatch, for example, they'll go places and play, and they're all their travel is paid for, and we just can't do that right now. But we offer something intriguing that they don't get, and that is at some points they're going to play in front of thousands of people in a hostile environment that's got Palmers and the pep band, the Blue Devil comes out, the whole production. I call it a production, and that is something that those kids remember.
It's not antiseptic. And a lot of this, because you deal with these tournaments, a lot of these shootouts are antiseptic. There's not an isness to it, and Quincy delivers that. And that's a credit to your fan base, which I know you walk around. I mean, you see the same faces sitting there for 2 days. That's got to do you proud, because that's what you wanted when you put this together.
Oh, there's no doubt. I don't know how many people I tell or I see. I know my father-in-law, when he was alive, the one thing he would say was, I meant to come Saturday morning and leave and go home, and I didn't. And then on Sunday, he said he was so sore because he sat on those gosh darn bleachers all day long. And so it's just, there's one negative to Quincy, and that is just our location.
Right.
It's no matter what we do, we're going to have to bring somebody in, and then they're going to have to drive here. I guess they could fly, but that for the most part, teams fly to St. Louis and come in. And that I think holds us back a little bit from some teams, but it's kind of one of those things. Once you get them here and they see it, I think they'll think it's worth it.
I know it's not the most important thing you do, but I do love the fact that you give every year one local small school team a Rocky shot. And it kind of is sort of a nod to Chandler Bevins and what he did when he was at Clark County.
Absolutely.
And you do that so well. And this year it's West Central. And I mean, everybody's heard a lot about Zach Evans and how good he's been, and All-Stater, and they're ranked 7th. And you're obviously putting them in a game where they're going to be the underdogs. But isn't that fun at 9 o'clock in the morning to start your day with, hey, we might see something special from one of our local teams?
Yeah, that is. And what's really neat about that it's a great opportunity for them. But it's neat to have a guy like Jay Blossom and Principia come in, and he gets it. He knows he doesn't want to play at 9 o'clock, but he understands. He gets it that we're a developing program. We're good, but we're not what you have. Our goal is to be that as we move forward, and maybe play later in the day as we move forward. But he was the guy that. The very first year we had, he said, I'll come, and they were loaded, but I'll only come if I can play Quincy.
Right.
And look where that's got us there. Now we play Webster Groves every year, and it's built a good thing. And so I attribute a lot of that stuff, and Jay jumped at the chance to come and play here. And so we'll see just how good they are. They have a 7-foot kid that has yet to be cleared by the Missouri State Association. So we'll see if that happens or not.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the Blue Devil aspect of this too, because it's a little different this year for Quincy High School, because they've come in and they know they've kind of been an opening card act. And I know you've never treated them that way, but they're not viewed the same way that Link is.
No.
This year, they are I think they're a consensus top 5, if not higher team in Class 4. Everybody knows Quincy High is legit. You come in, if you're Andy Douglas, with wins over the likes of Chaminade and Ritter now, and they're playing Imhotep Academy on Saturday night in a marquee slot. Yep. That feels a little different than other Quincy games you've had, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've put them against some teams that have been good. I mean, no doubt that Webster Groves the very first year was going to be that. We've had them against Tom Kleinschmidt's team in Centralia, and last year, Staley was just. I say it, and Andy disagrees with me a little bit, men against boys, because Caden Fish was just physically a ton to deal with. But this is the first time we're going to put Quincy High against a program outside of the Midwest.
Right.
And they're going to have a young man named Isaiah Noel that plays for them that's already signed with UConn, the defending national champions, and you don't get there by accident. And he can put up 40 on you in a heartbeat. And so it's going to be we've been looking at this as the years have gone on of when can we put Quincy High against that team? And there it is. It's this year.
I'm not doing my job because I've got you here and you're the guy who's the expert who's put this all together. Give people your favorite matchup. Give people your favorite stealth matchup. Give people something early in the day on Saturday or late on the day on Friday that you think is really probably worth them making a side trip over for, that maybe doesn't jump out at them the way that like Link does right off the page.
Well, as I was telling the group I talked to earlier today, at 4 o'clock over at Quincy Notre Dame is Millard North. Is it Millard North? Which Millard do I have coming in here now?
I got to remember.
We're the team out of Nebraska, Millard North. They're the number 1 team in Nebraska, and they're going to play Curie, the number 1 team out of Illinois.
Right.
And normally that would be a marquee game, except over here I've got Wasatch at Quincy High playing at that time. So that will be a good game. I think the game after Quincy High on Friday night, which is Emotep and Chaminade, will be a good one. I'm really excited to see Jeremy Osborne's team play Saturday morning against Chicago Curie.
Yeah, that's the second game of the day, correct? If memory serves me right.
Yes, it is.
And you'd go right after West Central Principia, right into that monster matchup, which is, again, a lot of Mizzou fans in this area, a chance to see the future of the backcourt with Aaron Rowe there.
Yeah, and so that is a good game. Oak Cliff Faith Family at 6 o'clock is going to play Vashon. There's just a lot of good matchups that day. The Burlington School playing Link at 4:30 on Saturday will be an excellent game too. The Burlington School a couple years ago came in at the last minute and darn near beat Link, and it was a great matchup. So we've been very fortunate that the matchups have been well. Obviously, we would love to be able to have like a Wasatch versus Link. Those two are the number 4 and 8 teams in the country coming in. And there's just some logistics that prevent us from having that game.
Sure.
We're not allowed to have that.
Right. There are rules that
game.
You have to deal with.
Yeah, and those two teams are teams that are in a conference type thing together, and we're not, I don't want to say allowed, but they would rather than play in their sponsored events.
Certainly.
So hopefully we're on that path too, and going forward.
You mentioned that path. What's next for you? Do you have an idea? Do you have a goal that you want to get to, Eric?
I would love to be they have this new Nike League starting up, and Link will be a part of that, and Wasatch is a part of that. And I'd love to get to the point where we could have a Thursday night where we've got 4 of those teams in Blue Devil Gym, where it's a nationally televised audience, and we can really show what we have here in Quincy to the whole country. And I think that we have that. It's just getting our foot in that door. And I've kicked the door open. I just haven't been able to get through it yet. And so we're getting to that point.
Well, on behalf of every basketball fan in the Tri-States, because everywhere I go, and it starts with those guys down at Waverly every year at the holiday tournament, what's the Quincy High Shootout look like there? And they just love you. On behalf of all of us, thank you for what you've done for this community in basketball. It's an enormous thing. We're going to up our coverage a little bit this year as well. We've got the special overtime show coming up for you on Sunday the 21st, 10:30. It's a half hour devoted entirely to this program. You'll hear from Eric. You'll hear from Andy Douglas. I think we're going to have some of the guys from the Blue Devil team do a little special commentary and evaluation of some of the guys they're going to see in the gym all weekend. And as Eric told you, it's a really good crew. So again, thank you, Eric Stratman. Again, for people who don't know, you can get tickets at the door, you can walk up, but it's going to be a packed house.
Yeah, if you go to quincyshootout.com, you can get tickets there. For Friday night at the Blue Devil Gym, just buy a ticket for the Geneseo game. That'll get you in all 4. And then Saturday, you get 8 games for $12 or $15.
Best deal you're ever going to find.
Yeah, you can't do that. And I just want to thank the community for being behind this, because without the community support, we can't. Thanks Wills Nixon and Amy Hofer do a lot to help with this. Matt McClellan, Andy Douglas.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean those are our people that I really lean on, those people to make this happen. And I get the face of it sometimes, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and they do that, and that is monumental help too. So without the community support and those people, we don't pull this off.
Again, awesome job to all of them and to you, Eric. Again, It's coming next week right here. We're ready for the Shootout, one of our favorite events of the entire year. Again, thanks to Eric Stratman for being here, and a big thanks to our friends from Advanced Physical Therapy for the Duerrisms podcast. We'll be back next week with Matt Schuckman right here for his evaluation of the Shootout as well. We'll see you then, everybody.